Well, hello there.
Well, hello.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. What are you on the go today?
You know what? I have construction happening in the house.
Oh,
So rather than sit in there and hearing clank, 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 hammer, 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 I'm sitting in my driveway so that we can have a cozy little chat.
cozy little chat. Hope you like my little background today. I'm always doing silly little things. Canva's like my best friend. Jason and I were just talking that we need. Well, hi, you guys. Welcome to Check This Out, PC. I'm Katie.
What's up? Jason.
That's Jason.
Here, let's touch fingers. Ready?
Yeah, this is like every time.
Yeah.
E.T. Oh no. Okay, this is an interesting topic this morning because water cooler tales. So Jason and I were talking about it last week, and we're like, "Oh, this would be a good idea." And then, of course, we didn't talk about it until 2 minutes ago. But it's interesting because Jason, what do we mean by that? Like, because today we're talking about the mortgage and the housing industry in general. But what do we mean? Like, what do we mean water cooler tales?
Well, what I mean by the water cooler is you hear all kinds of fantastic stories and tales about, Butch's brother-in-law, Mary Jo Sue, who once upon a time had this situation happen. And so what happens as human beings, we go to the water cooler, and so many times we take our life advice from what we hear around the water cooler, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay. Sometimes the advice you get is right. Like if somebody's at the water cooler and they say, "Oh my gosh, that real estate agent, Katie, she is so awesome. You need to call her." That's good water cooler talk, right? But sometimes it's I went on WebMD the other day and I diagnosed myself with, stage 3, whatever.
Yeah, Dr. Google.
That's right.
So there's, and I would consider it, a type of gossip. We call it tales, just like it sounds, tall tales. Tall tales. It's that's what it is, And so most recently, I have people tell me, well, I'd like to sell my house, I'd like to buy one or whatever, but Jason, you have to help me with this one. But I want to wait until the market crashes.
Ooh.
Yep. Is the market gonna crash, Jason? Oh, we got a comment. Oh. Rick, hey! That's an old student of mine, a high school student. He's
nice.
Not anymore.
So that's a good question, Katie. Is the market going to crash? I know we've talked about it on this podcast before. Preface it by saying the market can do whatever the market's going to do. Nobody has a crystal ball.
Right.
But the one thing that you have to do is you got to take a look at, what causes a crash? So, and what is a crash? First of all, first thing you have to do is decide what is a crash. And second of all, what causes a crash? A crash is the way that most people in the real estate market define it. Housing values are here. The expectation if there's a crash is that housing values are going to go way down, right?
Right. And why are they thinking that, Jason?
Well, the reason why they're thinking about it is because it happened. We saw it, in the mid 2000s. We've seen it before. Like it happens in real estate. There's times of boom and there's times of bust, right? Rick, what up?
And then he says, that's cool how the comment shows that. Well, yeah, I make it happen, Rick. I make the magic happen, okay?
She's not just the talent, she's the producer. Okay, can we just say that?
Hairless mouse here.
Look
okay, anywho.
Yeah. So
yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So with the crash, two things have to happen, right? Like you got to understand why prices have been going up. The reason why prices have been going up is because there's very high demand and very low supply. So for a crash to happen, what you have to decide is how is it that trend is going to reverse, where there's all of a sudden an oversupply and lack of demand. And if you can answer that question and define how that is going to happen, then you can make a case there's going to be a crash. But that, I think, is the hard part. Like, where is all the inventory going to come from? Because as of yesterday, in the entire state of Arizona, I was talking to somebody, and they said that there are a total of 6,000 listings across the state of Arizona.
3,000 of them are here in Metro Phoenix. So
3,000 in a normal market, Katie. How many homes would generally be on MLS in a normal market?
Okay, so 4 or 5 years ago, we were worried about having 17, 18,000 on the market. I think in a normal market, it would probably be 25, 30,000 in Phoenix, which is 5 million people. So, there's other people in other parts of the country where they're like, I don't know, we have, a city of, 100,000 and they have 100 listings.
Yeah. 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 Well, so, and you're right. That statistic is correct. A normal, healthy market. I've been around for 20 years in metropolitan Phoenix, and this is before our population boom, was around 25,000 to 30,000 listings. And you're saying we have three
active. This is like, viable actual homes people would want to buy, kind of thing. So here's the question. Like, so how could we more accurately describe this to the layperson who wants to tell? Because even I'm not doing it good. You're so good at explaining it. So I'll say it's not going to crash, and they're like, "Why?" I'm like, because it's just not. It's not the same situation. So just very simply, is there a way to put that where someone will be like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense."
Well, this is the biggest thing I'd say. It really does boil back to what it is that I'm talking about. If you can explain to me how all of a sudden the demand is going to go from here all the way down and the supply is going to go from here to all the way up, because it's not just one thing, it's two things that have to happen, right?
Yeah.
And when interest rates are in the low threes, it's really, really hard to imagine how that demand is going to go away. For instance, any of our viewers right now who are renting, what has happened to your rent payment every single year for the last however long, right? So if I told you that you could buy today for the same or less than what you're paying in rent, why wouldn't you want to do that? And that is true. And it's going to be true for a long time. So that demand piece right there, it's going to be really hard for that demand to come down because so many people can benefit from purchasing a home. And then the supply side of it, the question is, are we all of a sudden going to build a whole bunch of more homes in Maricopa County that were like, they can only go so fast?
Even new builds aren't building fast enough. So I think that's the best answer. I made you reiterate it, but I think that's the best answer because I even tried to tell someone like consider, because here's what everybody's saying. Oh, well, there's all these people that are renting that have got free rent. And so all these people that own blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, let's just consider someone owns 10 homes. If they're not going to go into foreclosure because if they put that on the market, then our supply is going to be a little bit better. But I mean, if we're at 3,000 and 25,000 is the norm, we're not going to get suddenly, 15,000 homes, 17,000 homes suddenly rush the market. And the thing is, we're a revolving door. We're selling 10,000 a month. I mean, they're listing going. That's what it is. Normally, they don't go that fast, and so they sit a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So, isn't that interesting?
It's very interesting. And I'll tell you what I think the corollary to this is, and I think it's important to say this. What happens so many times is when we look at what's going on in the marketplace, we internalize it to ourselves, and we feel emotional about it some way or another. If I'm looking to buy a house right now, I'm afraid I'm going to buy it and the value is going to go down. That's an emotional response, right? Or if I'm trying to purchase a house and I can't get a contract accepted, I get afraid. And so I make the logic fit my emotions. You know what? I'm just going to sit out and wait until it crashes and then I'll do it. Okay, well, that's hope, but hope is never a plan, right? And I think that's one of the things that we have to be careful of is whenever we're making decisions, especially big decisions, we've got to do the best job that we can to remove the emotion or the way that we feel or our biases from what it is that we're looking at doing. And we have to be objective in our approach and say, okay, what are the facts? What are the facts telling me? What assumptions can I make off of this? Those are the best decisions that you make instead of emotionally looking at a situation. And we all do that. All of us do it in so many different areas in our lives. And we make the best decisions when we can separate those things and really be objective, right?
You know what, Jason? That's life skill. That's for everything. That's amazing. And so I think because it's such a huge decision in our lives that we over emotionalize it, right? And internalize it. So Rick's got, you want to read that, Jason?
Do you think it's because the concept of the demand has been made based on location versus if anyone doesn't want to live in a certain area? Well, I think I see where it is that you're going here. You're talking about, a regional concept, the concept of demand in a specific location. Here's what's interesting when you have such a scarcity of supply. Okay. And again, we react emotionally, we buy emotionally, we justify logically. If I want to live in a specific area, kind of like what it is that you're referring to, that area is going to have high demand. But if I can't get into that area and I really want to buy a house, what am I more likely to do? I'm more likely to expand my deal. And then if I can't find it, at some point, again, emotion wins. We get to the place where it's like, you know what? I'll just buy anywhere. And so the answer to your question is, yeah, demand most certainly is important based on location. But at the same time, because of the scarcity of supply, it's not uncommon that we change, those conceptions or conventions about where it is that we want to live. So if I'm in a neighborhood that is potentially a little bit less desirable than another one, I'm going to benefit by virtue of the fact that nobody can buy in here because there's no supply and way too high a demand. So in a normal market, I would say that what you're talking about is much, much more important. If there were 30,000 homes to choose from, yeah, you bet. A specific location is really going to be a big deal. When there's 3,000 homes to choose from, all bets are off, right?
Yeah. And then what a lot of people are doing, and we've done this before, even before the market's like this, like Jason, like you said, you'll expand out, and then it's still a smart move to buy. You don't have to, like, nobody wants to pressure you, but it's still a smart move to buy and then sell it in 2-3 years. You're still going to make a lot of money. It's still better than renting if it's an area that you can feasibly live in. So, okay. So Jason, do you have a story from this week? Did something happen? Because you were going to tell me and then you didn't tell me. So,
you know what? I have a couple of them actually. So here's one of my favorite things that I hear. Thanks, you, Rick. So here's one of my favorite things that I hear that people talk about at the water cooler, right? So they talk to you, Katie. Hey, I'm interested in buying a house. Then they end up talking to me so we can do the thing. And they say, you know what? I don't want you to pull my credit because I don't want the inquiry. It's going to hurt my credit score.
Yeah.
Why do you think that? Well, because I've either read it somewhere, somebody told it to me. It is such popular water cooler talk. I don't want an inquiry on my credit report because it's going to hurt my score. You're right. An inquiry is going to cost you on your credit score. Very, very true. Probably about 3 to 5 points.
Yeah.
So when you understand what makes up your credit score, 35% of it is your payment history. In other words, whether or not I pay my bills on time. That is a fascinating statistic because it means that 65% of what determines that score is something other than whether or not I pay my bills on time. Here's the biggest thing. You want to know what your credit score is probably going to be? Take a look at your latest credit card statement and figure out what the balance is versus the limit. Because 30% of what makes up that score is your balance to limit ratios on revolving debt. And so this is the way that I always explain it. Hey, listen, if you're concerned about your credit score, I understand there is going to be an inquiry when we do this. But it is so much better to let me take a look at that because I know how the scoring models work and I have tools where I can simulate changes on your score. So yes, it might cost you 3 to 5 points, but if based on my expertise and knowledge of how your credit score works, I can make some recommendations to get you 30, 40, 50, 80 points of improvement on your credit score. Isn't that 5 points for your inquiry the best investment that you could make on your credit?
I would say yes, Jason.
Good. There we go. We're done. So that is a super that's a great example of what it is that you hear, like, oh, don't have inquiry. And yes, there's truth to it. Don't want to say that it's not true, but let's keep it in perspective, right?
Yeah.
So
man, we could just talk all day about this kind of stuff, even like with buying. So right now people are, paying $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 over on a house. And then they're saying, well, Sally told me that I should be asking for the moon in a BINSR, which is a buyer inspection notice to seller, because I'm overpaying. No, that's not how it works. I get it. I get you're paying that much over, but that doesn't give you the right to ask for 75 items to be fixed because it's not going to happen. Right. It's what the market is right now. That's just what it is. It's just something that we have to navigate through. Right. That's exactly.
So
you got to tell your buyers too, whoa, slow your roll a little bit. think about it from a seller's perspective, but everybody's always out there, saying one thing or another. Okay. So you didn't have a crazy story this week or anything?
No, it's interesting. I do. I have crazy stories every week. So we could just go up. But I think this is actually a really good one because it really kind of illustrates how quickly our perceptions can change.
Right.
I actually have somebody that I have been talking to for a long period of time. They've been trying to get into the real estate market. I mean, we're talking nearly of looking at doing something. And it's fascinating because we were having a conversation about interest rates. Now, if you've been watching this podcast or have heard us talk before, we all know in February, interest rates ticked up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still great, but they're a little bit higher than what they were in January. Well, what's awesome is so far in April, that's ticked back down a little bit. We're getting pretty close to where we were before. So we've had some improvement.
Nice.
But so I have somebody who reaches out to me, and here's what they say. They say, I'm frustrated because I can't lock an interest rate in while they're low, and they're just going to go up. I can't buy. And it was just this, really, upset.
Yeah.
And again, the benefit of perspective, because here's what's funny. As we began our conversations almost 2 years ago, do you know what interest rates were?
6 or 4.5 or something?
They were in the 4s. They were in the mid 4s.
Yeah, and that was good.
And it was great. It was a fantastic rate. But you had rates in the mid 4s. They've come down to where they were in the 2s. Now they're in the high 2s, low 3s. But again, why? Because we're emotional because of the things that we hear other people saying. All that, rates are going to go up to 15. Rates are almost 2% lower than when you started this. We're really, really okay.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a funny story because that's all of us, isn't it? Like, I'm not picking on the person that I'm talking about. I react this exact same way when it comes to certain things. And it's so important that we have the right perspective.
We should have called it perspective. Boom. Morning chats with Jason and Katie. Yeah, that's amazing. So the market, it's across the nation. I mean, it's in small towns, it's in big towns, and it's in Minnesota, Montana, New York, Florida, Arizona, California. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And so I have an idea for next week, Jason. So I'm thinking about contracts and well, I mean, it's kind of like sellers want to get out of contracts now because they think they can sell it for more, and they can't. So that's maybe something we could talk about next week. So
Yes.
this is a good question, especially right now. Rick says, is there a benefit for being a first-time buyer?
Sure, there can be. Well, let's just start with the obvious. The benefit of being a first-time home buyer is that you're buying a home. You're not renting it. So there doesn't have to be some special program for you to benefit by buying your first home. Let's just say that first. Now, here's the other thing, and I want to say this because again, water cooler talk. Hey, I got this great first-time home buyer program.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. You ready for this?
Ooh.
First-time home buyer is a marketing term that mortgage companies use to get people to do applications.
What? Boom! You're dropping bombs this morning, Jason.
Mic drop.
Did you hear that, Rick? It's a marketing ploy.
Because here's what it is that we do. We want you to identify with a group of people. Hey, I'm a first-time home buyer. You mean you have something special for me? Yes, I'll talk to you. Of
course.
And it's the psychology of sales. Here's the thing. Most people think about things like FHA loans. FHA loans are a first-time home buyer loan program. They don't have to be. You could buy your 6th or 7th home on FHA. You can only have one FHA loan at a time, but that's a low down payment option that you can have. Look at that. It does. So what you're probably referring to, what most people are referring to when they talk about first-time homebuyer programs, is they're really talking about down payment assistance programs. In other words, if I'm renting and I don't have enough money for a down payment, is there a program for me to help me buy my first house? It's technically not first-time homebuyer, it's down payment assistance. And the answer to that is absolutely we do. We have all kinds of programs that help you with your down payment. But here's one thing to remember. So Rick, write this down wherever you're at, pen, paper. We can help you with that first-time homebuyer loan. In this market, as crazy as it is, it's unlikely that we're going to have a seller that would be willing to pay for the closing costs. So we can help you with the down payment. We can help you with some of the closing costs, but you're going to have some money to be able to pay the remainder of the closing costs to get into that house. But it's not much different than a security deposit or first month's rent. So if it's something you want to do, there's a good chance we can come up with a plan to help.
And in this market, it's going to take a lot of tenacity. So I'm doing my best to prepare people up front. And I think we could talk forever, but we're already at 20 minutes in. But it's like, even with Jason, like, it's funny because the water cooler talk too is, listen, if Jason can't do it, no one can. This is why I partner with him. This is why I exclusively use him. I got lenders coming after me every day, and I'm like, no, thank you. And they just can't do what Jason does. And if he can't do it, no one can, like I just said. And so when I bring people to him and they are out of credit limit, they're not good enough, and Jason's telling them what to do. And then they come to me and they say, well, is there a credit repair company that I can go to, blah, 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 because Joe Schmo told me this and Bob told me this and this lender told me this. What's the problem with that, Jason? Because I told him, I tell them, listen, Jason can help you with your credit. You don't have to go to a credit repair company. You don't have to pay them $1,000 or whatever it is. So how do you combat that, Jason?
Well, I think it's important to remember what the value proposition is of whoever it is that you're doing business with, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm a credit repair company and vocationally that's what I do, my only goal is credit repair, I'm going to charge for it because it's the only way that I generate revenue.
Yeah.
So it's important that not only I help you with my credit if I'm a credit repair company, but I have to get paid to do that. The advantage that we have, Katie, is that you and I were not in the transaction business.
Right.
We're in the relationship business is what we're in. And so the one thing I've never done, I've never told a borrower, hey, I'm sorry, you can't buy a house. Right. I have said we can't buy a house right now.
Right.
But this is what we have to do to get there. And so we've made it a practice to be the master of our craft by understanding credit reports. In other words, how can we take a look at you and give you a roadmap? So you might talk to us today and I might say, hey, here's the bad news. We can't go buy a house in the next 30 days. But you want to know what the good news is? We've got a plan. If we are to execute these steps between this period and this period, you'll be ready to accomplish your goal of buying a house. And so my value proposition is very, very different. I don't need to get paid to do credit repair because we do home loans. So I'm helping you because we have a mutual interest. Your interest is buying a home. My interest is taking care of you and helping you finance that home. So because of what it is that I know, we don't charge for it.
And the thing is, that goes along with mindset, because then we can help the buyers get that right mindset with, okay, it's okay that you can't buy right now. Don't freak out. Don't stress out. It's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna help you along the way. And so Rick was a student of mine, so he knows the kind of care that I take with people. This is who you are. This is why. I mean, seriously, we should go national. I'm just saying. I have friends in other states that are like, I'm like, Jason, do you do loans there? And he's like, no. And I'm like, crap. So, hey, this morning's been really informative. I think it's been fantastic. Did you notice that I put all my makeup on? Well, I mean, not my makeup, my jewelry on while we were chatting.
I noticed that. I saw that.
I feel naked without it. I wear the same things every day. There you go. Okay, so guess what it's time for? Did you want to say anything else before we move on?
No, I don't. I'm good. Okay. I'm talked out.
It's time for Weird in the News. Okay,
what do you got, Katie? I'm excited. What do you got?
Okay, so Rick says, I'll definitely be in contact. Okay, well, Rick, I think I introduced you guys at one point, but maybe not. Just contact me. I'll get you in contact with Jason. This is what I always do anyway. Okay, Weird in the News. The first thing is, now I'm trying something new because you know how I always have to pop in and out with like the pictures? So I contacted StreamYard and a little chat box, and they suggested to use Google Slides. So I'm going to try that today because then I think I can just seamlessly. Can you see this?
Yes.
Not bad, right? I mean, you can see these up here. I don't know quite how to. I think if I make it full screen, I won't be able to pop over there. How's that look? It's the same. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's too small? Oh, that's the wrong one anyway. Okay, hang on. I got to get there. All right. Well, it's small, but you can see it's Legos, right?
Yes.
Can you see that that's Legos? Is it really that small?
No, I'm just trying to understand. It says Lego larceny may be on the right.
Exactly.
I'm trying to compartmentalize that, friend.
Dun, dun, dun. Lego larceny may be on the rise. Friend, no, I left the other details under the picture because it's not my picture. So I'm taking this from npr.org. Okay, so I think maybe putting the links in here. Bless you. So French police are investigating an international ring of toy thieves with a particular affinity for interlocking bricks. So in this case, 3 suspects were caught taking boxes of Lego from a toy shop near Paris. It's not just Europe. Robberies are happening all over. In Oregon last month, somebody stole $7,500 worth of Lego toy sets. And the reason there might be a whole black market for the bricks because there's an enormous amount of collectors out there who are missing out on certain sets right now and are willing to pay a lot of money for these sets. Like, isn't that weird?
How do you come up with that plan? Are you like, you know what? I got a good idea, guys. Let's go steal some Legos because I bet you somebody probably needs this set. Well, if they really need it, why don't they just go buy it from Toys R Us? Well, they're out of business. Why don't they just go buy it?
Toys R Us, I know.
Maybe they'll buy it from us. How do you do that?
It's the thing. It's like Disney when they come out with those limited edition, DVDs and things like that, and then people are going this craze and they don't have it. So, I mean, this is like, okay, collect things. That's awesome, but like, don't stress yourself out over it and become a felon.
I wonder if they ever thought about like hitting up, garage sales and yard sales because you could probably find a lot of like Legos. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Easier, less risk.
Yeah. Okay. Now this one is hilarious, and I can't. Maybe I can. I don't think I can make it bigger. So it's really hard to see. I know. Can you see what it is at all? Can you see a man that's standing there between those two flags?
Yeah.
So those of you that are watching, you don't have to watch later, screenshot it or whatever. This is a Canadian lawmaker caught naked during video conference. And look he's just standing up between these flags. It was in Ottawa, Ontario, dun, 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 my favorite. A Canadian Parliament member was caught stark naked in a virtual meeting of the House of Commons. And what's your first thought about
Where's my pants?
Tanae says, morning. Yeah, I'm like, what is this crap with people, being naked and doing inappropriate things on Zooms and stuff. So anyway, it just says, the pandemic has caused many Canadian lawmakers to participate in sessions via video conference. Obviously, Ontario is in a complete lockdown. I don't know if you know that. Like, they're totally shut down, like stage 3 or whatever it's called. So anywho, this guy, there was a screenshot obtained by the Canadian press, shows him standing behind a desk between the Quebec and Canadian flags. So I don't know if you can see my cursor, but he's right there. Okay. It says, it was an unfortunate error, he says. My video was accidentally turned on as I was changing into my work clothes after going for a jog. I sincerely apologize to my colleagues in the House of Commons for this unintentional distraction. Obviously, it was an honest mistake and it won't happen again. And it just says, like, this is an amazing warning to everybody. You've really got to always assume that the camera is on and be careful at any time that you wander anywhere near that camera. So here I am, Jason. I have to change my clothes. Guess what I'm going to do?
Whoa.
Do you know what I'm saying? What a novel idea. Or, stick something over this freaking camera.
Or how about just not broadcast while you're changing?
Danae, I have the most perfect timing. I enter your live stream and bam, naked man.
Boom.
Okay, I've got one more. I have 3 today because I hope you think this is funny because it's just weird. Okay, now what does that look like to you? I mean, it says it was simply a croissant, which has found its way up a tree. Okay, this caused quite a stir. And let's see, animal welfare officials were called to reports of a dangerous creature hanging in a tree, and residents were too afraid to leave their windows open for fear that it might break in. Okay, here's the close-up of it right now. That's from far away. I mean, it looks sort of ominous. There it is, up close, a little bit blurry. It's a croissant in a tree. So it was in Poland, in Krakow. They were refusing to open their windows. A local resident called the animal welfare and said, An unidentified beast was brown and sitting in a tree. before adding that the dangerous creature had been lurking outside for 2 days. So this post is on Facebook.
Did he have itty bitty fangs like this?
Be not a man of valor, for death awaits you all with nasty big pointy teeth. It's only a bunny. Okay, so they thought it was an iguana. So then that concerned the animal welfare people because they were like, whoa, like they can't live in Poland in that temperature. So turns out it was just a croissant.
Hey,
dun, dun, dun.
Good grief.
Oh, hey, I can't believe we went 30 minutes. Like, we don't ever know. I keep thinking like 15 to 30. We're good. A little bit over. We got one thing left. Jason?
Katie?
I got to tell you, this is important. I love your socks.
Katie, I love your socks more. I got bad news, though.
What?
I'm not wearing socks right now.
That just stinks. Danae says, just need some butter to calm it down. That's awesome. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Next week. See ya. Peace.
Bye.